While the confirmed U.S. coronavirus cases surpass 11,000 in the United States, there are new signs that social distancing is working, especially in some hard-hit areas. And a husband and wife from Eastern Kentucky contract the coronavirus. We'll talk to one of them about their experience.
Scattered storms arrive tonight, and stick around as we head into your Wednesday. First at 4 is next.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYNT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. We'll get to our continuing coronavirus coverage in just a moment, but first at 4, our severe weather alert day continues as we are expecting strong storms, but that threat for tonight at least has diminished some. Chief Meteorologist Paige Noel is in our Weather Center with the very latest. Paige?
Well, Steve, I always want to bring good news, and that is good news. The severe threat has diminished tonight, especially compared to what we saw yesterday. If you remember, we were all in that slight risk. That has diminished, but we still have that risk heading into tomorrow, so not out of it yet. But as for today, it's been pretty nice out there. We've seen kind of that mixture of sun and clouds, maybe a pop-up storm here or there. I got a message that there was a little bit of thunder in Harlan a couple of hours ago, so can't rule out just a pop-up storm, but most of that looks to arrive as we head into tonight. So here's that severe outlook for today. That slight risk was pulled way back up to the north areas along I-64 and our West Virginia county still in that slight risk. Remember, that's a 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. While kind of a majority of us in that marginal, but then a lot of the Cumberland Valley is just in that general thunderstorm risk. So those storms tonight not looking too bad, but as we head into tomorrow could be a little bit different. But as we head into tonight, you can see those pop-up showers and storms mainly staying mostly into Ohio as they're expected to get kind of the brunt of the storms. And we'll start to die down heading throughout the day Wednesday, but it's Wednesday night into Thursday night. We're going to be tracking another round. You can see a lot of us in that slight risk heading into tomorrow. So it's going to be a little bit bumpy heading into the next couple of nights. We'll break down tomorrow's timing and what to expect coming up in a little bit.
All right, Paige, thank you. There are distressing numbers today out of New York, the coronavirus epicenter in the U.S., but there are also some glimmers of hope. Across the country, there are more than 369,000 reported cases of the virus, and the death toll is more than 11,000. CBS's Michael George has the latest.
There were more deaths from the coronavirus in one day in New York than any other since the outbreak started. 731 people died in the state in 24 hours.
Behind every one of those numbers is an individual, is a family, is a mother, is a father, is a sister, is a brother. So a lot of pain again today.
The death toll in New York City alone is more than the number of deaths in the 9/11 attacks, when almost 3,000 died. The number of hospitalizations went up again in New York, but the 3-day average is flattening, a sign the state may be reaching a plateau. Field hospitals are now helping relieve the strain on New York's hospitals. A new one opens today here at the Billie Jean King Tennis Center, home of the U.S. Open. It has 350 beds for non-critical coronavirus patients. There are now at least 22 field hospitals open or about to open in 18 states, including this one going up inside Detroit's Convention Center.
You're going to have some sick people here, and definitely those that need help.
In Louisiana, more than 1,800 new cases were reported Monday, bringing the total to nearly 15,000. Of the state's 512 deaths, 70% are African Americans.
When you look at being black in America, number one, people unfortunately are more likely to be of low socioeconomic status, which makes it harder to social distance. Number two, we know that blacks are more likely to have diabetes, heart disease, lung disease.
And in Wisconsin, social distancing voting. The presidential primary is taking place in the battleground state, despite Democratic efforts to delay it.
I don't think people should be voting today. People dying.
The state's Democratic governor says Republican lawmakers are forcing people to choose between their health and their right to vote. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
There are fewer polls open in Wisconsin, and they close at 8 p.m. tonight. The U.S. Supreme Court also weighed in a 5-4 ruling. Conservative justices decided voters would be given no extra time for absentee voting. They must be turned in or postmarked by today. And we have this just in from Louisville. Our sister station Wave reports 30 new coronavirus cases in Jefferson County alone today, and unfortunately 4 new deaths. That just in Jefferson County. A former Eastern Kentuckian and her husband both tested positive for the coronavirus, one getting critically ill and hospitalized. WYMT's Madison Pergram has more on their story.
Several weeks ago, things were different for Geneva and Mike Coleman. She contracted COVID-19, as did her husband soon after.
We ran a fever on and off, not all the time, but sometimes. We take Tylenol. We both lay in the bed. We could not get out. It was just terrible.
Mike was soon hospitalized because his condition started to get worse.
And that happens so fast. You're in a surreal world. I mean, it's just like there's a train going 90 miles an hour and you can't catch up.
After days in the ICU, everything remained uncertain.
They spoke in terms of hope, but they did not speak in terms of, what I wanted to hear, which was, oh yeah, he'd be fine here in a day or two, because they did not know that.
With many prayers and the help of the medical staff, they are now on the other side.
That the staff and the doctors of the ICU at UK Hospital, they saved our lives with God's help.
Continuing to warn others, it is not something to take lightly. Madison Pergram, WYMT Mountain News.
Geneva says the continued prayers are what got them through this experience. We will have more of their story coming up tonight at 6. The coronavirus pandemic is closing another restaurant chain. Logans Roadhouse fired all of its employees. The parent company is also temporarily closing all 261 of its restaurants. They called the pandemic unprecedented. There are fears the restaurants will not reopen. There are 8 Logans Roadhouses across Kentucky. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is in the fight of his life after being admitted to the ICU with the coronavirus. We do know Johnson is still breathing without a ventilator and has not yet been diagnosed with pneumonia. The 55-year-old world leader was last seen Thursday night. He looked worn out but was cheering Britain's healthcare workers.
Well, my thoughts are with him and his family, because obviously it's a very worrying time for them and his loved ones, because it's very serious, and if people go into intensive care, obviously they're at grave risk.
Johnson's pregnant fiancée is recovering from symptoms of COVID-19. Since the UK does not have a deputy prime minister, Johnson asked the foreign minister to fill him in on affairs of the state. Schools have switched to online learning, but as graduation approaches, a lot of decisions have to be made. Union College canceled its in-person graduation, and they've decided to host a virtual ceremony. WYMT's Emily Bennett talked to the Director of Communications about what this entails.
For weeks, Union College put off the decision to cancel graduation.
We're as frustrated as anybody else, and we definitely expected our seniors to be disappointed.
But they knew they could not let graduation day pass without celebrating their graduates who worked so hard this year.
And we're meeting weekly and trying to still get all of the elements involved here.
So they decided to do a virtual graduation, still including their traditions and honoring each student.
We'll be able to use that link, shoot it out to everybody ahead of time. They can subscribe to it, and it will be live. True countdown. It'll be a time event. We're going to keep the time the same as we had planned on commencement. Same day, same time.
Giving seniors the chance to have something to look forward to.
No, I'm sure it won't be anything close to the same thing. It is something for everybody.
Trying to keep everything as normal as possible in the uncertainty. In Barberville, Emily Bennett, WYMT Mountain News.
Union College does hope to have a true graduation ceremony in the winter. Emily Bennett will have more on that at 11. 3 women are dead and another person injured after a stabbing at a truck stop near Knoxville, Tennessee. Police shot and killed the accused attacker. The 3 women were employees of the Pilot Company. They were pronounced dead at the scene. The person injured was a customer. Police say the attacker was a man and was shot after he refused to drop the knife he was holding. A stabbing this morning in Kanawha County, West Virginia sent one person to the hospital. It happened at a house in the Cross Lanes area. A woman told police her ex-boyfriend was breaking into her apartment and she stabbed him in self-defense. He was stabbed in the chest on a balcony. At this time, no one is in custody. No word on the man's condition. A Confederate flag recently set up outside a Western Kentucky courthouse is drawing some controversy. A commissioner in Marshall County says members of the local chapter of Sons of Confederate Veterans paid for the flag and raised it in front of the government building in Benton. The commissioner says it is flying solo to recognize April as Confederate History Month, but says it could eventually be part of the Civil War monument that also contains a Union flag. Several officials in Marshall County, including a former sheriff and a Louisville NAACP leader, are questioning the installation. Stephanie Grisham is out as White House press secretary and is returning to the East Wing as First Lady Melania Trump's chief of staff. Grisham never held a news conference during her time as press secretary. Her departure comes as President Trump's new chief of staff, Mark Meadows, makes changes to the West Wing communications team. Meadows is reportedly eyeing several potential replacements for Grisham, including Trump campaign spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany. Coming up on First at 4, healthcare workers pose the risk of infecting their families with the coronavirus after their shifts, but a nationwide effort is trying to help keep them safe.
And that best chance for storms will be Wednesday night. We'll break down the timing and impacts next.
From staff